Welcome to a deep dive dedicated to strategic leadership and organizational efficiency.
Today, we are really pulling back the curtain on a critical role.
Absolutely. It's one of those roles that, well, it's often unseen, but it directly impacts a company's financial health. We're talking about the Procurement Director.
Right. It's this fascinating mix of finance, risk management, and even global logistics.
And our sources today give us a direct, a really high-stakes look into this world. We're focusing on the essential skills and the strategic mindset needed to succeed at the top.
That is exactly right. You know, we often think of the CEO or the CFO, but effective procurement is just so crucial. It dictates where and how an organization spends its capital. It's the engine of efficiency.
So where do we start? What are the fundamentals?
I think we see this role resting on three core strategic pillars. You've got strategic sourcing, supplier relationship management, and critically cost optimization.
And to manage all that.
To manage that, the director needs a really unique blend of skills. We're talking about technical expertise, true leadership qualities, strategic thinking, and just a high adaptability to market shifts. They're really the sophisticated gatekeepers of organizational spend.
And we've synthesized all the critical information for you. We've analyzed the source material, a definitive guide for mastering the top interview questions for this role to give you a shortcut.
A shortcut to understanding that strategic mindset.
Exactly. We're mapping out the 6 key areas that reveal what employers are truly prioritizing in a top-tier candidate. Okay, let's unpack the first requirement. So when we're talking about a role that manages, multi-million-dollar contracts and vast supply chains, we have to start with the non-negotiable.
Yeah, experience. Foundational experience.
So what does the source material suggest is the baseline expectation? It can't just be a few years in the field, can it?
No, not at all. The expectation isn't just high, it's very clearly defined by the sheer scale of the risk and the opportunity involved.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
The ideal candidate, according to these guides, needs over 10 years of progressive experience in procurement.
Over a decade?
Yes. But it's the type of experience that really matters. They must have managed both small, tactical purchasing environments.
And the big stuff.
And the large-scale, really complex supply chains.
10 years is a significant commitment. Why that specific number? What does a decade of experience teach you that, say, 5 years simply doesn't?
Well, a decade gives you a deep cyclical understanding. It means you've successfully navigated through multiple economic cycles.
Things like recessions, inflation.
Recessions, inflationary periods, supply shocks, major technological shifts. That kind of experience isn't about just ticking boxes. It's about demonstrating key, large-scale achievements.
Such as?
The source material is clear on this. They must prove they have successfully negotiated complex, multi-year contracts with major global suppliers. They need to have led and mentored multiple teams of procurement professionals and, most importantly, implemented tangible cost-saving strategies that you can see that demonstrably improve the bottom line.
Especially during volatile periods.
Exactly. It's the proven ability to deliver results under pressure and at scale.
That sets a very high bar for the technical background. But, managing budgets and suppliers only works if the whole operation is, above board. So let's move from technical experience to operational integrity. Let's talk compliance.
This is where it gets really interesting.
It does, because compliance is about managing risk and establishing a culture, not just, following rules. How does a director ensure their entire global department stays on the straight and narrow?
This is a fantastic transition because integrity is the foundation. If you look at the source material, ensuring compliance involves a multi-pronged approach.
And it has to start with the leader, right?
It starts with a leader modeling that behavior. The director must constantly stay updated on all relevant global and local procurement laws, ethical regulations, and industry-specific standards.
This seems like an enormous amount of regulatory complexity.
It is.
Especially for companies operating internationally. So how is that knowledge actually disseminated and enforced within the team?
It requires institutionalizing training. You have to ensure the entire team is systematically trained on compliance standards. Not just once, but continuously as rules change.
Okay, so training is one piece.
But the most crucial element is turning that policy into actual practice. This means implementing clear, easily auditable procurement policies and conducting regular independent audits.
Audits for adherence across all purchasing activities. So it's not enough to just have the policy on the intranet somewhere.
Precisely. You have to actively verify it is being followed. The overall strategic emphasis is on creating a culture of transparency, ethical behavior, and accountability. Procurement professionals handle vast sums of money and sensitive supplier data. Without this pervasive culture, the whole organization is exposed to legal, financial, and reputational ruin.
So a strong compliance framework is really a strategic risk mitigation tool.
That's a perfect way to put it.
That shift from passive knowledge to active policy enforcement, that's clearly central to the job. Okay, let's move to the core mission, the part that pays the bills.
The bottom line.
The defining measure of procurement success. Let's dive deep into the specific high-impact strategies the sources highlight for reducing costs. What are the concrete examples that a top candidate must bring to the table?
Well, when organizations look for immediate and sustained savings, the biggest lever they want to see experience with is supplier consolidation.
Supplier consolidation, it sounds simple, like just working with fewer people.
It sounds simple, but the execution requires some really sophisticated category management.
Tell us more about the mechanics of that. The sources mention a very specific high-impact example.
They did. The source gives a powerful illustration of a strategic project that actively reduced the overall supplier base by 30%.
30%, that's a huge number.
It is. Think about that scale cutting nearly a third of your partners. The reason this is so effective is twofold. First, by concentrating your business volume, you achieve significant discounts, and you can negotiate vastly better payment terms and unit pricing.
So you're turning all these scattered purchases into massive buying power, which then leads to better discounts.
Exactly.
And what was the ultimate outcome in that specific example?
This consolidation strategy, coupled with some aggressive negotiation, ultimately led to a 15% cost reduction on critical raw materials.
Wow, a 15% cost reduction. That's a figure that really sticks with you because it shows the direct connection between a strategic decision,
The structure of your supplier network.
and a massive financial impact. But it also raises a critical question, right? If you reduce your supplier base by 30%, aren't you introducing a pretty significant risk to your supply chain resilience?
That is the essential trade-off.
What if one of those remaining larger suppliers has a catastrophic event?
And a good director absolutely must manage that. The sources imply that strategic consolidation isn't just about cutting the low performers, it's about partnering with the best, most financially stable suppliers.
The ones who have their own contingency plans.
The ones with robust contingency plans, yes. The focus shifts from transactional buying to building these deep collaborative relationships. It often requires dual sourcing agreements even within that consolidated pool to mitigate single points of failure.
Excellent point. Okay, moving beyond contract negotiations, what other high-impact operational strategy is highlighted for cost minimization, specifically related to the physical flow of goods?
That brings us to inventory management and the implementation of a just-in-time inventory system, or JIT.
Okay, JIT. For a listener who might not be steeped in logistics, what does that mean?
Well, traditional inventory management involves keeping large amounts of safety stock in warehouses, which is extremely expensive.
You're paying for storage, insurance, security.
Right, and your capital is tied up in goods that aren't generating any revenue. JIT flips that on its head.
How so?
JIT strategically ensures that raw materials or components are delivered just as they are needed for production or sale. The strategic benefit is, well, it's really clear.
Lower costs.
It drastically minimized storage costs, it reduced the need for warehousing capital, and it significantly reduced waste from things like obsolescence or damage. It connects strategic planning directly to physical operational efficiency.
So you only spend on what you need precisely when you need it.
Exactly.
That is a fantastic overview of cost optimization. But as we said earlier, procurement isn't just about managing materials, it's about managing people and relationships.
It's a huge part of the job.
Let's look externally first. How does a director handle the inevitable friction with key suppliers? You know, those critical partners who suddenly become difficult or fail to meet their contractual terms.
Handling supplier disputes requires immense emotional intelligence coupled with contractual rigor. The key word from the source material for this process is collaborative.
Collaborative, even when there's a dispute.
Yes. A seasoned director knows that burning a bridge with a major supplier over a single issue just creates future instability. The goal is rarely punitive. It's seeking to understand the supplier's perspective to find a mutually beneficial resolution.
A resolution that maintains the long-term partnership.
Right.
But how do you maintain that collaborative spirit while still enforcing the necessary boundaries?
Essential tools in this delicate process are, first, unwavering clear communication, documenting all issues, all conversations, and second, maintaining a rigorously professional demeanor.
And what do you fall back on?
Ultimately, you rely on the legal foundation of the relationship. You refer back to the terms of the contract.
Because the contract defines the obligations.
The contract defines the obligations and penalties, so it allows the director to enforce terms firmly but professionally. It shows the relationship is built on agreed-upon standards, not just, personal feelings.
That balanced collaboration backed by contractual rigor, that is absolutely the mark of a seasoned leader. Now let's turn to the internal team.
Okay.
Once you have the right policies and the right supplier network, you need the right people executing the strategy. What are the key strategies for developing and managing high-performing procurement professionals?
The focus here is on turning a team of purchasers into a team of strategic partners. So team development prioritizes continuous professional development.
Through things like training and mentorship.
Exactly. Structured training and mentorship programs. Given the complexity of global trade and supply chain tech, skill obsolescence is a real danger. The director has to make sure their team is constantly learning.
And how do you measure their individual success?
The structure for success includes setting very clear goals and key performance indicators, or KPIs, for every single team member, and providing regular constructive feedback.
And the leadership style itself matters.
It matters greatly, especially in an environment with such high financial stakes. The source says it centers on an open-door policy,
which allows junior staff to voice concerns without fear.
Right, concerns about potential supplier issues or ethical gray areas, and it's about promoting a positive work culture that actively values teamwork, innovation, and, above all, accountability.
Accountability is paramount when you're handling the financial flows of a large corporation. So, let's pull all these threads together.
Okay.
We've covered strategy, compliance, cost reduction, and leadership. The final question is synthesis. How do we formally measure the overall success and impact of the entire procurement department? You need hard data.
Exactly. You need metrics that tell a complete story about efficiency, financial health, and strategic contribution. And success is measured using 3 primary quantitative KPIs, which are cost savings, supplier performance, and procurement cycle times.
Okay, we understand cost savings and supplier performance, things like on-time delivery rates, defect rates. But can you break down the strategic importance of procurement cycle times for our listener?
Sure. Procurement cycle time is basically the duration from the moment someone inside the company identifies a need, say, a new component for a product,
to the moment the goods actually arrive.
to the moment the final purchase order is fulfilled and the goods arrive, yes. A fast cycle time means the company can react to market needs quickly, gain a competitive edge, and minimize delays.
And a slow cycle time means bottlenecks, missed opportunities, and I imagine a lot of frustration.
A lot of frustration. It is a direct measure of the department's speed and efficiency, so the director must constantly be looking for ways to streamline that process.
Absolutely. And the source mentioned it's not just about the hard metrics.
No, beyond these financial and efficiency metrics, the definition of success also explicitly considers the satisfaction of internal stakeholders.
Why is that as important as achieving a 15% cost saving? That might surprise some people.
It might, but think about it. If the rest of the company finds procurement to be slow or bureaucratic or just difficult to work with, what do?
They try to go around them?
They attempt to circumvent the process. This leads to rogue spending, a lack of compliance, and you lose that centralized purchasing power. It ultimately erodes the very cost savings the department worked so hard to achieve.
So success is holistic.
It is. It's minimizing external spend while maximizing internal service delivery. The department has to be seen as a strategic partner, not a necessary evil.
That contextualizes the role beautifully. It's not just a back office function, but a central strategic driver. Finally, to fully inform the listener on this career path, let's look at the related roles mentioned in the sources.
Yes, the sources list several related job titles, which is great because it underscores the deep specialization within the field. It provides a kind of roadmap for a career.
So what are some of those titles?
For example, you have the category purchasing manager, who focuses intensely on one category of spend, like IT or marketing services. They master that specific market.
And how does that differ from a commodity manager?
A commodity manager typically deals with raw materials, think steel, oil, or grains, where pricing is subject to volatile global markets.
I see.
You also see titles like contract coordinator, focused purely on the legal side of agreements, and materials director, who often oversees the physical flow and logistics.
And there were some retail-specific roles mentioned too.
Yes, they also mentioned executive retail roles like merchandise director and division merchandise manager, or DMM, which shows how that purchasing expertise translates directly into major retail strategy.
We've really mapped out the essentials here, demanding over a decade of foundational experience, leveraging powerful actions like reducing the supplier base by 30% for a 15% cost saving.
Implementing efficient logistics like JIT systems.
Carefully balancing supplier collaboration with strict contractual adherence, and using a holistic suite of KPIs from cycle times to internal stakeholder satisfaction to measure true impact.
And this, I think, raises an important question for you, the learner, as you think about applying these principles beyond just purchasing. If successful procurement relies so heavily on clear communication, on absolute transparency, and a collaborative approach to resolving disputes with external suppliers, how might applying those very same principles of relationship management transform how you approach negotiations, remediate conflicts, or lead projects within your own internal teams?
Yeah, it's a great thought.
The lessons learned managing a global supply chain often provide, well, the clearest blueprint for successful internal leadership.